Harihi Om. Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat. Jai Sriman Narayana. This is an introduction to Arthasaṅgraha, a Prakarana Grantha of the Mīmāṃsā Shastra. We all know that in Sanskrit we have Shastra and Darshana. Most of the Darshanas are the Shastra, and Mīmāṃsā is one of them. This Mīmāṃsā system has very conspicuously influenced many of the other systems also. So you wonder that there is no philosophical system here in India which was not influenced by the Mīmāṃsā, because Mīmāṃsā basically follows the scriptures, that is Vedas, very closely, that whatever it claims to establish is based on the Veda. So first it is the Veda and an analysis of the sentences of the Veda is Mīmāṃsā. So therefore, the word Mīmāṃsā stands for the analysis, vicharaha, deliberation, or you can say a kind of close examination, that is Mīmāṃsā. So that's why in the ancient scriptures also you come across this word very frequently, Adhvara Mīmāṃsā, Dharma Mīmāṃsā, Brahma Mīmāṃsā, Karma Mīmāṃsā. So everywhere the word Mīmāṃsā is added to signify that it is basically a kind of deliberation on the definition, nature, types, and other auxiliary points of that particular subject matter. Here it is Mīmāṃsā proper, because Arthasaṅgraha is the text that tries to elaborate the cardinal doctrines of the Mīmāṃsā. Now, Mīmāṃsā means deliberation. Mīmāṃsā means a kind of contemplation on the significance of Vedic sentences. In a way, you can say it is the analysis of the import of the Vedic sentences. Now, when we observe, the Vedas are four, and all the Vedas are nothing but sentences. Naturally, a sentence is a group of meaningful words, and all the words have mutual connection and mutual expectancy also. Now, when there are sentences, it naturally presupposes the sentential meaning. Then what is the sentence meaning? This is the question. And this question disturbed the Vedic seers also, because when Vedas are believed in our tradition as the direct manifestation from the God energy, not man-made, so naturally we don't have any scope of knowing the true import of the Vedic sentences. In the ordinary worldly sentences, we find that the sentences give a meaning, and if when we don't get the meaning, we ask the speaker. But here, the Vedas have been believed to be non-human creation. They are only the manifestation of divine energy, and therefore we cannot ask somebody about the import of the Vedic sentences. This being the case, how to get the import? How to ascertain the sentential meaning of the Vedas? For that, the Mīmāṃsā system has devised a method and successfully employed for several thousand years. Thus, the Mīmāṃsā Shastra has gradually evolved. Now you compare. Before Jaimini Maharshi, there were so many Mīmāṃsakas, the people who had tried to analyze the Vedic sentences. Some people like Yaska had even separately established a system called Nirukta. You know that Nirukta also helps a person in understanding the Vedic sentences. but that focuses more on the etymological understanding of the words, not sentences. But when it comes to the complete meaning of a sentence, the Mīmāṃsā Shastra is very helpful. Therefore, we say it is Vakya Shastra. Vakya Shastra means the particular science of sentential import. And Mīmāṃsā Shastra is very, very helpful to all the aspirants of Vedic sense. And so many texts have been written. So before Jaimini Maharshi, there were so many seers who had tried to analyze the Vedic sentences. But perhaps in the 4th, 5th century before Christ, Jaimini Maharshi, who was a student of Vyasa Maharshi and a contemporary, of course, had devised a particular method, and he had provided the reasoning behind extracting a particular meaning from the Vedic sentences. So how that particular sense is obtained, and similarly how the import of the other sentences can be obtained. So the technique has been given by Jaimini Maharshi, and his Shastra is known as Mīmāṃsā Sutra. The Mīmāṃsā Shastra proper that has come down to us is in the form of Mīmāṃsā Sutra, because whatever was written before Jaimini is not available today, and therefore we solely depend on Mīmāṃsā Sutra of Jaimini. This particular text is found in 12 chapters in 2715 formulas, or you can say sutra, aphorisms. And all these sutra deal with a particular case of Vedic context. Sometimes it discusses what is God. Sometimes the sutra discusses what is Swarga. And it presents what is sentential uniformity, split sentence. It discusses what is subordinate, what is principal. So all these important ingredients, or you can say key concepts of Mīmāṃsā Shastra, have been presented in the sutra format by Jaimini. Later, several years later, Shabara Swami from the South India had explained the sutras very beautifully. This is known as Shabara Bhashya. Shabara Bhashya or Shabara Bhashya is a gloss on the sutra. And I'll tell you that without the help of the Bhashya, it is certainly very difficult to understand the meaning of the sutra. Because apparently the sutra seems to give a particular sense, but when we go through the Bhashya, we understand that actually the sutra gives a different meaning. For example, Autpattikastu Shabdartha Sambandha Shabdasya Arthena Saha Sambandha Autpattikaha. So the word Autpattika generally means artificial, that which is produced. But Shabara Swami derives that in a different sense and says that it means eternal. So such contexts are there. Such many places are there where Shabara Swami has given a very different meaning. Later, perhaps in the 8th century, Kumarila Bhatta, the greatest Mīmāṃsaka ever, had commented on the Bhashya and Sutra. He had written 3 different commentaries like Shloka Vartika, Tantra Vartika, Tuptika. So these are the 3 commentaries on the same text. And he has presented his own understanding of the Sutra, and his contribution to linguistics is very, very significant. That Shabara Swami has touched upon almost all the important aspects of language, like the phoneme, morpheme, syntax, semantics, phonology. So all these are the key factors of linguistics, and he has worked on all of these, and in his commentary we find very good important theories on all these topics. His contemporary, perhaps junior, Prabhakara Bhatta also had commented on the Mīmāṃsā Sutra Bhashya. He had written the Bruhati. Unfortunately, till recent times, it was known through secondary sources. But in recent times, the Vedic University Tirupati has published Bruhati, and now it is available partially. Then we have Shankaracharya, and during the time of Shankaracharya, Mandana Mishra was there, Sureshwaracharya, he became. All these were great Mīmāṃsakas, because Brahma Siddhi and other are important Mīmāṃsā texts of Mandana Mishra. Then we have, in the centuries that continued, we have great Mīmāṃsakas like Khandadeva, like Murari Mishra, like Vopadeva, Appaya Dikshita, and many other. And in this line of Mīmāṃsaka scholars, we find Laugakshi Bhaskara. Laugakshi Bhaskara has written the Arthasaṅgraha on the Mīmāṃsā system. This is a Prakarana Grantha. In Prakarana Grantha, the stress or emphasis is more on the presentation of their own theories. The later texts will present both opponent's view and proponent's view. So this is the tradition of Mīmāṃsā Shastra. There, the place of Arthasaṅgraha is very important because Laugakshi Bhaskara has followed Vopadeva very closely, and the theories that Vopadeva had presented in his text Nyaya Prakashika are presented in the Arthasaṅgraha also. So this is the clear contribution of Laugakshi Bhaskara. He belonged to the Laugakshi Gotra. That's why he carried the name Laugakshi Bhaskara, but his name is Bhaskara Sharma, because he has mentioned Laugakshi Gotra Kulodbhavena Bhaskara Sharmana. So people called him Laugakshi Bhaskara only. And this Laugakshi Bhaskara has presented the Arthasaṅgraha in about 6 chapters. So in other books, you don't find chapterization, but some of the books present the classification to facilitate easy understanding of the text. The purpose of Arthasaṅgraha is to give you a clear understanding of the Mīmāṃsā Shastra in a very easy manner, because everyone will not be capable of going through all the Mīmāṃsā texts like Sutra, Bhashya, Vartika, then other important Udgrantha like Bhattadipika. So many people cannot have direct access to many of these voluminous and very terse texts. So therefore, there was a need that the main doctrines of the Mīmāṃsā should be presented at one place in an easy manner, simple manner, so that anybody can understand. Anybody means, in the olden days, people used to study a particular Shastra, basically, with all focus, but they required the knowledge of other Shastras also, so that they can thoroughly understand their own system. For example, when I study Sanskrit grammar, Vyakarana, it's not that I can keep myself away from all the other Shastras. I require them, especially when I study Bhushanasara, Paribhashendu Shekhara, Shabdendu Shekhara, and all these. So naturally, I come across many theories of Nyaya Shastra, Yoga Shastra, Kashmira Shaiva Darshana, Mīmāṃsā Shastra. So all the Shastras are mutually complementary. They help each other. They contribute to each other. And therefore, if a person focuses only on one Shastra, being ignorant of the main theories of other Shastra, his knowledge will be lopsided, his knowledge will be partial, and it will be very dangerous. And therefore, in the olden days, even though one Shastra was preferred, one Shastra was taken as the main subject, the other Shastras were also studied. Some studied with all vigor, but some others studied the other Shastras only to get a fundamental knowledge of them. Thus, the people who study other Shastras study Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, to get an idea of grammar. But the people who study grammar as major subject, they study Nyaya, Mīmāṃsā, Sahitya and other Shastras also. But all the scholars who study the other Shastras, whether it is Vyakarana, Nyaya, Vedanta, Sahitya or any other, they have to study Mīmāṃsā. Without the study of Mīmāṃsā and without a clear understanding of the major theories of this system, one cannot understand thoroughly the other Shastra also. Very typically, the Vedanta Shastra is known as Uttara Mīmāṃsā only. And therefore, a person who studies Vedanta cannot ignore Mīmāṃsā. During the 17th, 18th centuries, the Laugakshi Bhaskara had composed the Arthasaṅgraha, presenting all the important doctrines of Mīmāṃsā Shastra at one place, and that also in an order. Of course, sometimes he has violated the order also. He promises that he would follow an order, but as we go through the text, we find sometimes he doesn't follow the order, but still the text is so popular that even today, a person who desires an easy entry into the Mīmāṃsā Shastra studies the Arthasaṅgraha and Mīmāṃsā Paribhasha. These are two different texts, but these two are primary texts on the Mīmāṃsā Shastra. The word Mīmāṃsā stands for the deliberation, contemplation, or analysis of the Vedic sentences. Now, what is the essence of the Veda in one word? Then, unanimously, all the scholars would tell us that it is Dharma. Dharma is the summum bonum of all the scriptures in India. Without Dharma, you cannot expect anything. So Dharma has been taken up by the Mīmāṃsakas, and a very thorough analysis has been provided in their texts. For example, if you take the Jaimini Sutra, you find there Athato Dharma Jijñāsa. This is the very first sutra, which says that now, therefore, a desire to know Dharma, it commences. An inquiry into the nature of Dharma commences. Now, a question arises. When the sutra begins, now, what does it mean? Now means after what? The Shabara Bhashya explains to us that it is after the study of the Veda, naturally a desire to know about the nature of Dharma arises. So, the desire is quite natural because you have already studied the Veda. But now, after mugging up, after taking them by heart, a desire naturally arises in you to know what they mean really. Because chanting the mantra is different from knowing the meaning of the mantra. Many people may chant the mantra, but very few know the meaning of them. Now, therefore, the inquiry into the nature of Dharma is quite natural after the study of the Veda. Therefore, Jaimini Maharshi says in the beginning of his text that now I begin an inquiry into the nature of Dharma. Now, what is Dharma? Because Jaimini Maharshi has stated that Dharma should be known, therefore I begin an inquiry. Now, all his sutras, they revolve around Dharma. What is Dharma? He presents the definition as Chodana Lakshanartho Dharmaha. In his opinion, Dharma is that positive result characterized by the Vedic injunction. Now, this you have to understand. What is Dharma? He says it is the positive fruit which is characterized by the Vedic injunction. What is injunction? The Vedic sentence which prompts a person to indulge himself in a particular action. For example, Swarga Kamo Yajeta. This particular Vedic sentence means a person desirous of heaven should perform a sacrifice. So, what is enjoined here? Sacrifice. What is the purpose? Heaven. So, there is a connection between the two. That in order to achieve something, you are supposed to perform something. So the performance of sacrifice and attaining the result, these two are connected. Karyakarana sambandha. Now, dharma is characterized by that particular fruit. Chodana lakshanortho dharma. Ultimately, it is the Vedic injunction. It is Vedic injunction. Because without that, there is no chance of knowing what is dharma, what is the result of dharma. So therefore, ultimately, we completely rely on the Vedic injunction. Now, in this context, we are supposed to understand how many types of sentences are there in the Veda. Vedas are ultimately in the form of sentences. In the Rig Veda, we have about 10,520 sentences, that is mantras. And in Yajurveda, Atharvaveda, Samaveda also, we have different number. Altogether, you may find some 16,000 mantras, and they are all in the form of sentences. Now, when you analyze, you find some classification. Like some kind of sentences follow a particular pattern, some other follow a different pattern. So naturally, when you try to place them in their proper compartment, you find ultimately 5 types of sentences. So the Vedic sentences are of 5 types. Vidhi, that is command, order, injunction. Nishedha, prohibition. That means some sentences urge you to do something. Some sentences try to ask you to desist from some evil action. Do this is injunction. Don't do this is prohibition. There are Arthavada. Arthavada means those sentences which are in the form of praise of something. So in a sentence, if you find that there is praise of something, you understand it is Arthavada. Stutihi nindava Arthavadaha. Then you have the Namadheya. Namadheya means a nomenclature. Yes, in some of the Vedic sentences, you find only the nomenclature or names of some kings or sages. Then the 5th one is mantra. Mantra, prayoga, artha, smarakaha, mantraha. So generally, mantras are those which help the performer of sacrifice remember the mantra. So mantras help him. Oh, when a person chants the mantra, he remembers that a particular action needs to be performed. Thus, they remind us of the action. So thus, we have 5 types of Vedic sentences: Vidhi, Nishedha, Arthavada, Namadheya, Mantra. And broadly, you can say that mantra is one type. All the other, Vidhi, Nishedha, Arthavada, Namadheya, 4 belong to the Brahmana. Therefore, mantra, Brahmana. Under the mantra category, you have only one mantra. Under the Brahmana category, you have 4. Nishedha, Arthavada, Namadheya, and the Pratishedha. Now, therefore, Sayadacharya says in his commentary on the Rigveda Bhashya, Mantra Brahmanayor Veda Namadheyam. Ultimately, mantra and Brahmana together constitute the Veda. Then, when you are saying that Dharma is the summum bonum of all the Veda, among the 5 sentences, which is the sentence which directly stands for Dharma, for that Jaimini Maharshi has given the sutra, is the Vidhi Vakya, which stands for the Dharma. So Veda gives an injunction. In order to get longevity, you perform the sacrifice. This is the order. And on understanding this, a person indulges in the action and he will get the fruit. This is the Mīmāṃsā understanding. Now, what about the other? All the other are supportive. They are actually auxiliary to the Vidhi. Therefore, Vidhi is the most important of all the sentences. It is the Dharma proper. Now, what is Dharma again? Of course, Jaimini Maharshi has explained to us that the Vedic injunction, Vidhi, itself is Dharma. But all the others like Arthasaṅgraha, Laugakshi Bhaskara, they have explained dharma in different words. Laugakshi Bhaskara says, Veda Pratipadyaha Arthavat Prayojanavat Arthaha. Veda Pratipadyaha Prayojanavat Arthaha Dharmaha. So this is a very interesting and simple definition. In his understanding, dharma means that particular positive fruit which is the result of some action that is enjoined by the Veda. So Veda that gives a particular statement, injunction, then accordingly some action is performed. From the action some fruit is obtained. So that which connects to the fruit is dharma. Then what is that dharma? The fruit or the means of getting the fruit? Arthasaṅgraha says, dharma is essentially not the fruit, but the means of getting the fruit. Therefore, he gives the definition as yagadireva dharmaha. Ultimately, the Vedic rituals are dharma. So it is a means to attain something, dharma. And all the other later scriptures also were based on the dharma, like ahimsa paramo dharmaha, the Mahabharata, Ramo Vigrahavan Dharmaha, Ramayana, Bhagavata. That Bhagavata Dharma itself is a very interesting one in the 10th skandha. So all these texts focus more on the elaboration of dharma only, and all the 18 Puranas, they give various episodes while interpreting and elaborating the dharma only. So therefore, we can understand that dharma is pivotal in understanding the ancient Vedic culture. Now, this is dharma, okay? That is yagadireva dharmaha. But Jaimini Maharshi also tells, and aptly Shabara Swami and Kumarala Bhatta also explained to us, that in order to get the positive result, you need to know the dharma. But in order to avert something bad, you need to know adharma also, because dharma is capable of giving you the positive fruit and adharma will give you the negative fruit. And if you really want to keep yourself away from the negative fruit, then you should know what is adharma. Therefore, dharma and adharma both are the subject matter of Mīmāṃsā Shastra. In order to avoid, you should know adharma. In order to practice, you should know dharma. So this is the idea in the Arthasaṅgraha. And this Arthasaṅgraha basically begins with the explanation of the sutra Athato Dharma Jijñāsa. So Athato Dharma Jijñāsa. This is the first sutra of Jaimini Mīmāṃsā Sutra. Laugakshi Bhaskara also takes this sutra and tries to explain this sutra on the basis of the Bhashya. Says Atha means now. Now means after the study of Veda. Ataha, because it has a direct fruit. Dharma Jijñāsa, an inquiry into the nature of dharma, commences. So this is the idea. And after that, he provides the definition of dharma. As I told you, that it is Veda Pratipadyaha Prayojanavad Arthaha Dharmaha, or you can say Yagadireva Dharmaha. And after that, we come to an important concept of Mīmāṃsā Shastra, that is Bhavana. Bhavana is the word given in the Mīmāṃsā Shastra, which is nothing but the effort of the performer. Of course, it is in two forms. The Mīmāṃsā Shastra explains to us, as presented in the Arthasaṅgraha, that bhavana is of two types: Shabdi bhavana, Arthi bhavana. The injunction that is present in the words is Shabdi bhavana. When it is put into practice, it is Arthi bhavana. And in each, you have again three factors. One is sadhya, other is sadhana, and third is iti kartavyata. Sadhya, sadhana, iti kartavyata. Sadhya means that is to be achieved. Sadhana the means of achieving that. Iti kartavyata, the modus operandi, the method. So all the three are there. In Shabdi Bhavana, we have three. What is to be achieved, how it is to be achieved, and the process. In Arthi Bhavana also we have same three. What is to be achieved in Arthi Bhavana, how it can be achieved, and the method, process. So these three are there in Shabdi Bhavana, Arthi Bhavana. So the Mimamsa Shastra tells us that you desire a fruit, of course, because people expect positive results throughout their life. They'll be expecting positive results, but actually they don't know how the positive result is obtained. When all the direct means fail, we try to get to the indirect means. And here, all the worldly efforts are proven to be not certain. So therefore, a person naturally goes for the Vedic means. And Veda tells that if you perform this ritual, you will get this result. This is Mimamsa understanding. Okay. Now, when you desire a positive result, you don't have any other means. And when you approach the Veda, you find there the sentences. The sentences are in the form of injunctions. Then only you can get encouraged to do something. So if you want to do a ritual, you should get a sentence in the Veda which tells you to perform that particular ritual so that you would get the result, natural. So that particular sentence is the sentence of injunction. You get encouraged to perform something, some ritual. Now, what you have before is the sentence. What you understand from the sentence is a kind of injunction or a kind of order to perform some ritual. So this is known as Shabdi Bhavana. That means that particular order is present in the words, because hearing the words only you get motivated. So therefore, the command should be there in the words. It is Shabdi Bhavana. Then you practically do something, some ritual. So doing the entire ritual is Arthi Bhavana. The result of Arthi Bhavana is your positive fruit. Whatever you get, some people want power, some people want wealth, some people want health, some people want vigor and rigor and fame, whatever may be the positive result. But when people aspire for that, when people seek it or they long for that, so naturally Veda comes for their rescue, providing the right means to get that. And now it is a debatable point. People say, what is the guarantee that after performing that I will definitely get it? No guarantee. Even during the Corona period, there was no guarantee that a person who is admitted in the hospital would come back healthy. No guarantee. Even the trained doctors won't guarantee any operation. So it is left to the fate. The expert doctors also sometimes ask the patients to go for prayer. They say, pray to the God, may this operation be successful, because they know that everything is not in their hands. So here also, when the positive fruit is not in our hands, we go to the Veda, and Veda says, you perform this, you will get it. Now again, after how much time? It depends on how much dharma we have accrued in this life. If dharma is more, then the positive result will be closer. If adharma is more, so we cannot get the positive result, and we have to go on performing the ritual for a long period. Yes, it depends on the person. As in the yoga and Vedanta systems, a person who is so qualified for the spiritual knowledge may get the realization very fast, like Ramakrishna Paramamsa, Ramana Maharshi. But a person whose mind is filled with all dirty thoughts or impure thoughts, so he has to purify himself first. The cleansing method is very important. Then only he can expect the spiritual knowledge to dawn in him. So therefore, it all depends on the person. But Veda says you perform this, you will get the positive result. Now, Shabdi Bhavana and Arthi Bhavana are the two Bhavana that are explained in the Arthasaṅgraha. And after this, Laugakshi Bhaskara goes on explaining the word Veda. What is Veda? And here he says, Apaurusheya Vakyam Vedaha. So, in Arthasaṅgraha, Laugakshi Bhaskara explains the term Veda as that which is a non-human composition. Apaurusheya Vakyam. Again, the problem is, what is Paurusheya and what is Apaurusheya? Paurusheya means a human composition. Apaurusheya, non-human composition. But the problem is, can there be any sentences not composed by humans? Because human beings are endowed with the faculty of speech. They can only compose. But how can you say that there are sentences which are not composed by humans? Vedas are just revelations. The Shiva Sutra to Vasugupta, the Vedic mantras were also revealed to the Vedic seers in the state of high spiritual absorption called Samadhi. So you cannot say that the Vedic seer had really composed the sentence. When I am asked to compose a sentence, I think of proper words, I arrange them, and if I am not satisfied with the arrangement of word, I rearrange the words. So this is generally observed. But in the Veda, whatever order is there, in whatever order the sentences were revealed, this order has been maintained even today. The order not changed and not allowed also. Sayanacharya explains in the Bhashya that no change in the order of Vedic words. That is the sacredness of the mantra. That is the sanctity of the tradition that we are supposed to follow. And Veda is not created by humans. They are only revelations. And this is the end of the first chapter in the Arthasaṅgraha. In the first chapter, we have understood what is Dharma, what is the meaning of the first sutra of Mīmāṃsā, and when Yagadi Dharma, then Shabdi Bhavana, Arthi Bhavana, then what is the definition of Veda. In the second chapter, Laugakshi Bhaskara gives a fuller exposition of the Vidhi only. I told you that the Veda Vakya are of 5 types. There, the first one is Vidhi, second is Pratishedha, Nishedha, third is Mantra, then Arthavada, then Namadheya. So, Vidhi being the first one and very pivotal in the Mīmāṃsā system, Laugakshi Bhaskara begins the second chapter with Vidhi. Everybody should understand what is Vidhi, how many types are there. So, according to this Arthasaṅgraha, Vidhi is that sentence which makes us know that point which was not known earlier. That means Ajñāta Artha Jñāpako Vidhi Veda Bhagaha Vidhihi. So Vidhi is that sentence which gives us something which cannot be known through any other means. Like if you want Swarga, you perform Jyotishtoma. Nobody can tell you. In no other text you can find it. In the world also you cannot find it. Only the Vedic, the scriptural sentence tells you. So therefore it is Vidhi. Then how many types are Vidhis are there? How many types? Arthasaṅgraha presents first the 4 types of Vidhi. They are Utpatti Vidhi, Adhikara Vidhi, Prayoga Vidhi, Viniyoga Vidhi. They are the 4. That means some Vidhi sentences, they actually explain to you the nature of karma. It is Utpatti Vidhi. Some sentences tell who is eligible to perform which ritual. This is Adhikara Vidhi. Some sentences explain to us the exact performance of the ritual, Prayoga Vidhi. Then application of them, that is Viniyoga Vidhi. So thus we find the 4 Vedas being elaborated in the Arthasaṅgraha. There we come across the Viniyoga Vidhi very importantly, because in the Viniyoga Vidhi, we are supposed to understand two things. One is primary and secondary. I would like to tell you that the Vedic sacrifices belong to Sapta Samstha. Among them, in some sacrifices you use Soma Rasa. In some rituals you use a kind of cake baked. In some rituals you use a kind of charu. That means a kind of liquid. In some of the rituals you use Pashu, the animals, where different kinds of animals. So it is there, like Ashwamedha Yaga, etc. So there are Pashu Yaga, there are Soma Yaga, Dravya Yaga, Havir Yaga. The Vedic rituals are of different types. Among them, some of the rituals are Prakriti Yaga. That means they are that kind of rituals in which all the details are given clearly. If all the details are given, it is Prakriti Yaga. There are some rituals in which all the details are not given. They are Vikriti Yaga. Then there is Prakritivat Vikritihi Kartavya, which means that ultimately the Vikriti Yaga should be performed on the line of the Prakriti Yaga. That means it is actually the model ritual. And all the other rituals, because they lack in all the details, they depend on the Prakriti Yaga, the model ritual only. So accordingly, they are also performed. Like Saura Yaga, they are all Vikriti Yaga. So in this context, we should understand that when a particular ritual is performed, we have something as principal, something as subordinate. Principal, subordinate. Now here, what is principal? What is main? That is understood through the Vedic sentence. Then, in order to accomplish that particular ritual, several other things are also prescribed. They are all secondary. For example, in order to get Swarga, you perform Jyotishtoma. Jyotishtoma is the Prakriti Yaga. And now, whatever ingredients are prescribed there, you use the Soma Rasa here, you use curd here. So all these are subordinate. So there will be something as principal, something as subordinate in the yajna. You should know what is principal, what is subordinate. Otherwise, there will be total chaos. For that, the Viniyoga Vidhi prescribes some 6 pramana. Shruti, Linga, Vakya, Prakarana, Sthana, Samakhya. These help us in understanding what is subordinate, what is principal in a sacrifice, in a ritual. So how to know? Because nobody is there to say in the Veda. Vedas are texts. Vedas are texts that have come down to us through tradition. Now, there is nobody to explain to us this is principal, this is secondary. Then Mīmāṃsā Shastra tells, you get all this knowledge from the Veda only. You observe. One is Shruti. Shruti is the first factor on the basis of which we can ascertain the nature of principal and subordinate. What is Shruti? Nirapeksho Ravashrutihi. The Mīmāṃsā Shastra tells us that that particular utterance that does not depend on any other thing for its authenticity is Shruti. Shruti means Veda. So that is the first and ultimate pramana. Everything else will be based on Veda, will not go against the Veda. This is the very, very strong understanding of the Mīmāṃsakas, that the scripture is the highest. Everything should follow the scripture. Nothing should go against the scripture. Even if you find the contradictory statement somewhere that is apparently going against the scripture, you have to know the Mīmāṃsā, take the help of Mīmāṃsā Shastra to settle down the contradiction and prove that nothing goes against the scripture. So this is the way that the Mīmāṃsā Shastra has developed the science of sentence analysis. And there it has given Shruti as the ultimate authority. Then Linga. What is Linga? Linga is Samarthyam, that particular efficiency or capability in the words. That means you can call them as word efficiency. A particular word stands for something. It is its own efficiency. The word power. For example, Aindri is the Sanskrit word. We know from this that it relates to Indra. How it is within the word itself. It is the word potency. Shruti, Linga, then Vakya. Vakya is samabhivyaharaha. It says that when the words are uttered in a sequence together in a particular context, they follow the samabhivyaharaha vakyam. Sam abhivyahara. That means being uttered together. That is samabhivyahara. And especially in a sentence when shesha, sheshi, pradhana, apradhana are uttered together, it means it is vakya. It is ultimately co-utterance, you can say. Then we have Shruti, Linga, Vakya, Prakarana. Prakarana is Ubhayakanksha Prakaranam. Ubhayakanksha. It's a kind of mutual expectancy that, for example, something is stated that if you perform this ritual, you will get this result. This is one sentence, but it naturally has the expectancy of another sentence. How? Because this much is mentioned in the sentence, but the part how is not mentioned in this. Then it depends on the other sentence. In the other sentence, the how part is explained, but who has to perform, what will be the result, it is not mentioned. So it naturally depends on the first sentence. Thus A and B, they depend on each other. This mutual dependence or expectancy is known as prakaranam. Of course, this prakaranam is basically of two types: Mahaprakaranam, Avantara Prakaranam. So thus the Arthasaṅgraha explains these two as Mahaprakarana and Avantara Prakarana. Then we have Sthana, because Shruti, Linga, Vakya, Prakarana. After Prakarana we have the Sthana. Before that, Arthasaṅgraha explains the Sandamsha also. That means when something falls between two, it can fall on this side or this side, because both are actually clipping it or holding that as a forceps, and that is Sandamsha. And some particular cases are decided on the basis of the Sandamsha. Then we have Sthana. Sthana is nothing but Krama. Desha Samanyam Sthanam. Sthana means the similar place of utterance. Similar place of utterance. You have there Patha Sadeshya, Anushtana Sadeshya, Yadhasankhya Patha, Sannidhi Patha. So this part is also explained in the Arthasaṅgraha with all examples, how the sthana is understood. Then we come to the Prakarana sthana, Samakhya. Samakhya is actually Yaugika Shabda. Samakhya means the etymological word. So Samakhya Yaugika Shabdaha Sachad Vividha Vaidiki Laukiki cha. So Samakhya also helps you understand what is principal, what is subordinate. Samakhya means how a particular word is derived. So this is Yaugika Shabda. And then we have, these are actually the six pramana. Six pramana. Then Arthasaṅgraha explains to us the two types of Anga. In the previous section, it has explained to us the six factors to decide the auxiliary things. Now it explains two types of auxiliary things. One is Sannipatya Upakaraka, Arat Upakaraka. Sannipatya Upakaraka means that which is helpful through something, not direct. So they are indirect. Arat Upakaraka, they are direct. Upakaraka means helpful. So in a sacrifice or a Vedic ritual, when something is indirectly contributing, it is Sannipatya Upakaraka. When it is closely and directly contributing, it is Arad Upakaraka. So these basic terms are explained in the under the Viniyoga Vidhi only. Then we have the Prayoga Vidhi. The Prayoga Vidhi is Prayoga Prashu Bhava Bodhakaha Vidhi. That means this is the Vidhi or injunction which explains to us how a particular Vedic ritual should be performed in a quick manner and completely. So this is Prayoga Vidhi. And it is also Pradhana Vidhi. Under the Prayoga Vidhi, we have several important ingredients like Krama, the order. Krama means the expansion of something or order. Vitati Visheshaha, Pūrvā Parya Rupaha. This is actually sequential order. Here also you have 6 sequential orders like Shruti, Artha, Patha, Sthana, Mukhya, Pravritti. So 6 are given. On the basis of this, we can understand the Krama also. And after these 6 Kramas, this Arthasaṅgraha comes to the important topic of this Mīmāṃsā Shastra, that is Adhikara Vidhi. Adhikara Vidhi means who is eligible to perform some Vedic ritual, Adhikara, so that if he performs this ritual, he will be the enjoyer of the fruit. So this kind of Vidhi is Adhikara Vidhi. And if a person performs Jyotishtoma, he will get Swarga. Then we have the mantra part. In the 3rd chapter, he has explained the mantra. How many types of mantras are there? How do they relate to the meaning? Prayoga Samaveta Artha Smarakaha Mantraha. So the mantras are the parts of Veda which remind us of the thing related to the actual performance. So we are reminded of the thing, then we naturally perform that particular thing. Then we have the Niyama Vidhi. Niyama Vidhi, actually Niyama Vidhi, Apurva Vidhi, Parisankhya Vidhi, these are all explained in other texts. But incidentally, towards the end of the text, Laugakshi Bhaskara explains what is this Niyama Vidhi. Niyama Vidhi is basically Pakshe Apraptasya Prapakaha. That means if it is partially applicable, so it actually leans on one thing, it gives importance to one thing, and it says this should be performed. Apurva Vidhi, when nothing is there, it says for the first time that you should do this. This is Apurva Vidhi. When 2 things are equally applicable, one thing should be taken. This is Niyama Vidhi. Parisankhya Vidhi, when 2 things are equally enjoined. In Niyama Vidhi, 2 things are not enjoined. In Parisankhya Vidhi, 2 things are enjoined. In Niyama Vidhi also we have to take one. In Parisankhya Vidhi also we have to take one. But in Niyama Vidhi, one is given in the Veda, one is ordinarily practiced. In Niyama Vidhi, both are prescribed by the Veda. One should be taken. That is Parisankhya Vidhi. So these are the important topics of this particular one. But Parisankhya Vidhi, there are some defects also. So that is Doshatrayam, he has explained what are the defects. Then Namadheya, the nomenclatures, also he has explained like Udbhidyaga, etc. And at the end of the chapters, we find the Nishedha. Nishedha means what should not be performed, what should not be practiced, what should be avoided. That is Nishedha. Purushasya Nivartakam Vakyam nishedhaha. So they are also helpful because they actually keep us away from the wrong thing. Then why that? Because when we keep ourselves from the wrong thing, then we will not get the adharma. Then nothing can stop us from the fruit, from getting the fruit. So therefore, nishedha should also be understood. And the 6th chapter of the Arthasaṅgraha, in the last chapter, is devoted to the exposition of Arthavada. Arthavada, I told you in the beginning that it is in the form of either a praise or a censure. That means when you find that something is praised in the Vedic Vakya, it is Arthavada, or something is blamed or censored, it is also Arthavada. And this Arthavada is actually supplementary to the Vidinishedha. That means when a sentence praises something, we get tempted to perform it. When a sentence prohibits something, we understand that it is wrong, it should be prohibited. So this is the purpose of this Arthavada. There are Vidhishesha, Nishedhashesha, and there are again 3 types of Arthavada. That is Gunavada, Arthavada, Bhutarthavada. So they are all explained in the under the Arthavada only. And ultimately, this Laugakshi Bhaskara ends his treatise with a word that actually the entire Veda is for the sake of Dharma, which is in the form of performing the scriptural rituals. And this Dharma, when performed with a strong conviction that everything is part of the universe and God is the ultimate power above, then we will not get the wrong result of that. And this is the ultimate purpose of Dharma. And Dharma is that which protects us. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. So with this sentence, Laugakshi Bhaskara concludes his treatise, and this introduction is also complete today. Thank you all. Namaste.